Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? Good morning. Good morning. Good to see everyone in the chat. Thank you for joining here today. How are we all? Lovely sunny morning here in the UK, which is normally unheard of for anyone who's ever been to the UK. Nice to actually have some good blue skies and sunny weather. So, how are you all doing today? Let us know in the chat. Good morning. Good to hear, Santosh. Good that you're doing well. Good. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Andrew. Long time no see. Good to see you. So, good morning, everyone. Let's do our usual kind of leisurely kickoff here, and just kind of talk about what we're doing here, what it is that we're doing, why we're kind of streaming, and what this is all about. So thanks for joining. This is Rubber Duck Thursdays, and here on Rubber Duck Thursdays, the vibe is very casual, the vibe is very relaxed, and we're here just to do some coding, just to hang out and chat, have questions in the chat, for example, and just learn together as we go. So we're going to be building some real projects. We're going to be working on some code, learning things along the way, and I'll be sharing some things along the way as well. So yeah, really just sit back and relax. And if you're doing something else, have this up on another screen. If you want to join along and try some things out, please do. And if you've got questions along the way, if you've got ideas or tips and tricks that you've got that you want to share with the group and the community here, please do. This is exactly what this is all about: is bringing our community together in just a really relaxed kind of environment, just to learn from each other. So please. Yeah, please join in and contribute here this morning. So seeing lots of good mornings. And hey, Nick, thank you for joining. Vihash, cool decorations behind me. Yes, thank you for that. Good evening from India. Good evening. Georgia, SA, South Africa, I'm assuming there. Good morning. Always good to see GitHub Live. Thank you. Yeah, we think so too. We're biased, but we think so too. And namaste, everyone. Thank you everyone for joining. So, for those who haven't been joining in some of the streams so far, let me kind of catch you up on what we've been doing, what we've been working on, and then maybe we can jump into a few things. So I can see we've got Erland from Finland, Ricardo from Portugal, Elliot from the UK. Good morning from Ireland, Brazil. Wow, very, very early in Brazil there. Thank you for joining us this morning, Bruno. I appreciate you. And India, Holland there as well. So we've got such a great mix already this morning. Thanks everyone for joining. So let's go and jump in and see what we've actually been working on so far. And I'm just going to make my screen full screen here. So we've been working over the past few weeks. A couple of weeks ago, I showed GitHub Skyline, a GitHub CLI extension we've been making. And then last week, what we kind of saw from the week before was a lot of people wanted to go and learn how to build a GitHub CLI extension. So that's what we started building, was this GitHub CLI extension. So maybe let's just start at the very beginning here. For anyone who's not aware, of course, there's many different ways you can go and interact with GitHub, whether that is through github.com, whether that is through your favorite editor like Visual Studio Code, which is what I'll be using today. You can also interact with GitHub through your terminal, through your command line interface. And you can do that using the GH command. And you can see here we've got a number of different commands, and there are several commands built in. But one of the things you can do is browse these things called extensions. So think about it as, functionality or things. There we go. Let me bring myself back on. Things that we can build, features or whatever it may be, that extends the base level of the GitHub CLI. So That is what we started off showing a couple of weeks ago. So I built something called GitHub Skyline. It generates a 3D model of your contribution graph, something like that. Let me go full screen. Oop, there we go. So something like that, if it focuses, maybe. And you can see we've got some ASCII art on screen as well. So it's kind of a fun little CLI tool. And what we started doing last week was actually building one from scratch. So, what's the process to actually go and build one? So, if you didn't check out last week, go and take a look at that. What we decided to do is build something a little fun, and we built basically a kind of extension for a game. So we started off with like a coin toss kind of thing, very simple, but you can kind of start to see how these things map together. So if I just go full screen again, and if we just go and run gh-game, because we've already built it, you can see that I've got some commands in here. So coin toss, so we can go and do that. And then we've got to specify a guess, so either heads or tails. Oh, and it was tails. So our luck isn't doing very well for today, folks. So hopefully we'll be a little bit more lucky when we get to the coding side, and maybe not on the coin tossing side of things here. But that's what we started doing. We were building this kind of coin toss sub command as part of our gh-game extension here. And what I figured we'd do today is right now, when we look at the codes that we've built so far, and this is all live, this is all public and published, so you can check out my repo here as well. Right now, we've really just got the code itself. We haven't got tests, we haven't got CI, for example, in place. We haven't got code spaces. So there's a lot that we can do to make it easier for other people to kind of contribute to that code base, and really just more that we can do to kind of get it going and get it running there. So what I thought we'd do today is maybe we could go and set up a GitHub code space for that, so it's easier to kind of get started. Maybe we can go and set up some CI as well, so some builds. And maybe we can go and start writing some tests, and depending on how we get on, maybe we can write some more games as well. And I picked games because, it's fun. It's something we can kind of interact with in the chat as well. So, let me know if you've got ideas of things that we could go and build in this. And why not raise an issue, of course? We could go and do that as well. So, lots of interaction in the chat, and just such a wide reach of people this morning. So thank you all for joining. Really appreciate it. So let me know, what are you kind of building at the minute? What languages are you using? What frameworks? And what is your kind of favorite projects that you're working on right now? Is there something fun and exciting that you're working on at the minute? I think this game idea is kind of fun, and I'm interested to see where it goes. But there's also some other things I'm working on, some AI-based things, personal projects as well. And whenever I get time, because, we all like our side projects, I think, as developers. So, we'll see when that time kind of comes up. And yes, to the folks asking here in the chat, this is absolutely live. So I am reading your comments as we go through. Please do interact. Please do add anything as well. And we'll keep calling that out along the way. Good. So let me jump across to my code here, and let me bring this back live on screen. So you're making your CV with HTML and starting a MediaWiki instance for your own products. Okay, documentation is very, very important. So, making sure you've got that all there is great. Maybe you could also have markdown files in your repository, for example, in a docs folder. There's a number of open source projects out there as well to host your docs, if that was another side project that you were thinking about. So, just floating some ideas there. But if anyone has suggestions for Erland, please do comment in the chat. Thanks, folks. So, let me go full screen here. So as a recap, we've got this project here, which is, again, we're building this GitHub CLI extension, and it's all written in Go. So you can see we've got this coin toss command, we've got this kind of root entry point here, and I added this other who am I subcommand as well. So it's clear that, I guess, for this environment, for this kind of environment that we're working in, we're going to need to have Go installed. We're probably going to need to have the GitHub CLI installed as well. And, there may be some other bits and pieces as well that might be useful, like linters or other kind of frameworks and things. But for now, I think I'm just going to go with the bare minimum and then see what we need incrementally and kind of build on top of that. Because right now, the VS Code editor that you see on screen is running on my local machine. So I'm not using a code space at the moment. This is my local machine. So hopefully that will help. And there was a question from Nick here. So are GitHub extensions primarily written in Go? Great question, Nick. And I guess the ones that I've seen, yes. And I'm just going to bring up a GitHub doc here for you, and I'll post it in the chat here. The ones that I've seen primarily, yes, but they don't have to be. So let me go and just find the doc. Because if anyone's watching any of these streams so far, you will know how rubbish I am at multitasking. So, as this loads, great. Let me bring my screen back up. Here we go. So creating GitHub CLI extensions. So you can create an interpreted extension with the GH extension create. You can create a precompiled extension in Go. You can create non-Go precompiled extensions as well. So I personally haven't made a CLI extension, which is not Go, just because Go is the kind of language that I've been getting most into lately. Personally, that's kind of my personal preference. But yeah, it could be something that if you wanted to try that out, Nick, there are docs available for that as well. So let me go and just post that link into the chat here. Oop, there we go. And I'll just bring that up on screen in case anyone wants that as well. So yeah, you can go and take a look at that. So no is the answer. You don't have to write them in Go, but it's I think it's been quite common, at least among a lot of the extensions that I've seen. Because if we actually jump back to, and we'll just go and create another tab. One of the things, and maybe this might be useful actually as a good kind of side exercise for everyone. Let me just go full screen. When you're navigating through GitHub repositories, you'll see on the right-hand side, there's a number of different topics that you can go and look through. We've got one for GitHub, we've got one for CLI, we've got one for 3D printing, but one of them is this GH extension. And when you scroll through here, there are many different GitHub CLI extensions that you can go and install. So if you never knew about the GitHub CLI extensions, this is a great way, again, to be able to go and find what's available, what's out there. And again, I'll put the link in the chat just a moment here, but you can see Go, that one is written in there. C#, actually, there we go, GitHub Actions Importer. Copilot, Skyline, I'm biased, I think that one is great. POI, so you can see there's a number of different ones there. And Go does seem to be the kind of the common language, and a bit of C# as well, actually. Go, Shell there as well. So that's a great way to go and check out what extensions are available. And yeah, just to go and see what everyone else is doing there. So yeah, that's one way you could go and check that out, Nick. So hopefully that answers the question. And I'm just going to put the link up one more time. There we go. And that will take you to this page here. So this CLI extension kind of list. So you can go and once you go and publish your own GitHub CLI extension, you can add that topic to your repository as well. So Nice, easy way to go and see what's available and what's around there. Good. Thank you for the question. Appreciate you. So let's go and jump back to the code. And let me go and just show you kind of the process that I normally start with when I am building a code space. So with GitHub code spaces, I like to think of them as an environment that I can define which anyone who spins up really that repository to work with, to edit, etc., they can go and get that kind of same environment. How many times have you had it works on my machine because you've got a dependency or some kind of package or some kind of framework which is outdated or not installed or something that isn't quite set up in the way you'd want it? So code spaces help us with that because we define this thing called a dev container. And that dev container is a bit like the infrastructure as code for what we're defining in our environment. And I want to show you a little bit of a trick here in Visual Studio Code. So if I just use Command Shift and P, you get this command palette at the top of the screen here. And you can type in commands for like code spaces, for example. And because I have the GitHub code spaces extension installed, I can create a new code space from my VS Code. I can connect to existing code spaces. You can see there's lots of different things that I can do. But one of the things that we can do here is we can add a dev container configuration file. So this dev container configuration file is a bit like that template of what it is that I want configured in my environment. So I can go and click that. And now what you can see is we can start going through this workflow almost. It's a bit like a wizard of setting up that dev container. You can see we've either got the option to configure it in the workspace, so allows me to share the config via source control, or in the workspace folder, by the user data folder, I should say. So not doing it via source control. I do want to share it with others, so I'm going to select this first option. And then what we can do is we can go and take a look through a number of different base images which are available to us. So the default Linux Universal is one of the ones that gets spun up by default if you don't have a dev container configured on GitHub in your repository. And you can see there's a number of different options and different kind of base images we can use. But Copilot has helpfully here suggested, hey, it looks like you're using Go in this project. Why don't you go and use the Go base image? So that makes a lot of sense. So let's go and click on that. So I can go and select whichever version that we want to go and use. 123 is the latest stable, I believe. So I can go and use that one. So we'll keep that as is. And then we have this additional thing here called features. So think about features as a little bit like packages that you can install into your code base. So, for example, I mentioned earlier, we're building GitHub CLI extensions. So one of the features that we probably want to go and install is the GitHub CLI. So let me go and make that full screen. And again, this is amazing, right? So the power of Copilot, the top item on the list is the GitHub CLI. Because again, it's detected let me bring that back. There we go. Because it's detected what we're kind of working on here is GitHub CLI, it's been able to go, right, you probably want to install the GitHub CLI. We've got things like .NET Aspire and 1Password and other things that we can go and install if we like. But as we said, we're going to keep this simple. What is it? Perfection is the enemy of progress, I think is the saying. So let's go and just have the GitHub CLI go, and that's probably a good starting point for us there. And then we can configure custom options then as well. We're going to keep the defaults again. We're just going to keep it very simple for now. I think you can specify the CLI version in the options, but I'm not going to take us off the side path for now. And one of the things you can do as well, a bit of a sidetrack, but I think it's a good sidetrack to go and take here, is this, you can see up at the top, we've been given this optional GitHub Dependabot YAML. So think about Dependabot as your handy assistant to help you keep all of your packages up to date that you're depending on. So things like your Go dependencies, your Python dependencies, even your Docker images, for example. But one of the things that you can do, so I mentioned about these features that you can install inside of CodeSpace, so the CLI, for example. I believe it can also help keep up to date the features that are being used as well. I don't think it's the actual software itself, it's like the version of the feature. So again, we can go and take a look at that here in just a sec. So let's go and tick yes for that one, because I don't actually have my Dependabot YAML configured right now, so it's a good thing to go and start with. And let's go and hit OK. And you can see that all we did is we went through those different options and just walked through that wizard, and now we have our dev container folder all set up for us. Or our file, I should say, not our folder. And as we scroll down here, we can see that it's called Go. It's using this image as part of the dev containers provided by, I think, the Microsoft.com container registry. It's installing that GitHub CLI feature. And that's about it. That's what's going on in that code, in that file. So you can see how it's this declarative way of setting up our environment. So the beauty then, and this is how you can tell it's live, by the way, folks, is we're going to be living life on the edge here. We're going to be dangerous. We're going to go and commit this file to the public repository and try and spin up a CodeSpace live. Let's go see what happens. So let's go and look at the source control here, and I'm just going to zoom out a touch. Oh, and I should show you actually the Dependabot YAML file. So again, this Dependabot YAML file, what it does is it helps us keep those package versions up to date. So things like Go, for example, things like these dev container features. So you can see that CodeSpace workflow, that dev container workflow that we just worked through, it has set up the package ecosystem for dev containers. So they're stored in the / directory, and on a weekly basis, it will go and try and increment those versions if there's a new version. So it helps us keep those packages, those features evergreen. There's kind of two parts to Dependabot. One is this side, which is like these version updates. The other side then is when there's like a vulnerability detected from a package, and it raises a PR to help you kind of patch that dependency then as well, and kind of flags an alert to say, hey, there may be an issue here. So there's kind of two ways that Dependabot works there. So useful to know if you haven't used Dependabot before. So something that I think is worth doing just while we're here, before we go and commit that Dependabot file, is let's just go and do this. So you can see that there's also an ecosystem for GitHub Actions. So yes, let's go and do that one. But we don't actually want to use Docker because we're not using Docker in this project. So let's go and use, I think it's GoMod. No. I'm going to go to this link and just double check here. There we go. It is GoMod. I was right there. Love that. So let's go for GoMod, because my Go code here is set up in the Go module, so that's what it means by GoMod there. That's the package ecosystem that we're talking about there. Directory / schedule interval weekly. So that looks good to me. So all my different ecosystems will get updated on a weekly basis. So what we can do here is, and this is a cool thing, by the way. I've showed you before about the Sparkle, that it adds the commit message for you. But I think if you then stage a specific file, it will do it based on that specific file then as well. If we change to add both of them, and the Dependabot setup, if we remove the dev container, it just adds the dependable config. So I thought that was just a really nice like experience thing that I never kind of noticed before, because I just normally default to kind of committing all the files I got staged, because I try and do it in increments all the time. But I thought this was kind of nice. So you know what? Let's make it 2 commits actually. Let's go for dev container, do that as 1 commit, and then dependabot. There we go. Commit. Nice. We'll go and sync that up. Great. There we go. Good. So seeing lots of folks, Sweden, Poland, seeing India, Nigeria as well. So awesome. Such a great variety of folks and distribution of folks joining us here today. So thank you all for joining. Yes, Frank, I did indeed just generate the commit message. Yes, I know. I think it's one of those things that you just need to pause and be like, hold on, is that just what happened? No more of those. This is the final version. This is the bug fix. This is the final bug fix moments. We can use Copilot to help us go and generate those commit messages. So it's just by going and using that little sparkle icon here in Visual Studio Code. So yes, that is exactly what happened. So let's jump back then to the repository. There we go. And we'll go and refresh. There we go. Uh-oh. I broke something. I broke the build. The Dependabot couldn't pass the config file. Okay, let's go and see what's going on. Did not find key. Interesting. Gotta love it. What have we done? Let's go see. Nothing jumps out initially. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat a little. I'm going to just go to my Skyline repo. And I'm going to go and see what I did over there. Knowing my luck, it is probably something to do. I think. Let me see. Let me go and minimize that. I suspect it is something to do. Very good eyes there. The space in line 9. Very good eyes. Let me just see if that is it. Net and pushed. I'll be amazed and blown away if that is it. Because white space always gets me in YAML. Did not find but maybe we need to indent it. Maybe that is the thing that we didn't do there. So Dependabot YAML. Let me go and see. Yep, that is exactly it. We need to be indented in a level. So you were close on the extra space. It was that we needed to indent a layer rather than bring it in. So I might have misunderstood this. That's on me. But thanks for flagging. Yes, this stuff gets me all the time too. It's always one of the things. If I'm working with YAML, I'll be like, right, we've had a parsing error. Let's go and start looking at the white space first. So let's go and commit and push that. Nice. There we go. Good stuff. So hopefully then, as we go and navigate back to the code, there we go. That looks good. Success now. Lovely. Good. Doesn't GitHub provide a validation schema we can reference to prevent this already in the editor? So for things like GitHub Actions, yes. And that's kind of what I'm working towards, actually, to the GitHub Actions extension. Whether there's something for Dependabot is a good question. I've not come across it, actually, Frank. So I'll do some digging afterwards and see if I can find something for that. But I guess what we did have, though, was that validation from the action there, the Dependabot updates piece there, which has now gone. But anyway, that was a nice little kind of loop that we had to go and find now. But I'll definitely do some digging into that one. So thanks for that. So good. Let me do this now then. So we have got obviously Visual Studio Code here running on my local machine. All of the dependencies are on my local machine. But now what we can go and do is we have this dev container JSON file in the repository. And what that means is whenever we go into this green code button here now, I'm just going to go and make that full screen. So whenever we use this green code button, by default, if you don't have the dev container JSON file, it will just spin up using that universal image thing that we mentioned a bit earlier. So it has like a load of different frameworks, languages, and tools installed. But now when we click Create Code Space on main here, what it will do is it will use that dev container file that we just used. It will use that Go underlying image and it will install the GitHub CLI for us then as well. So in theory, it has everything that we need to get going with building this GitHub CLI extension. I'm just going to click in a bit here. And just to kind of show you here as well, this is now in my web browser. So this is just a tab in my web browser. We can go and click on this building code space, and you can see that this is all building live. So this is, the container image getting pulled down and the container getting built for us here then as well. So that's why I really like that workflow of creating that dev container from the Visual Studio Code extension and adding that dev container configuration file that way, because you saw how easy it was to kind of go through that workflow and just get a base environment set up there. So that's personally why I like that workflow. So yeah, that's kind of the approach I normally take when I'm creating code spaces and those dev containers. So good, let's go and jump back over to the editor. So good, we can see now that it looks like that's all been set up. Looks like the extensions are getting installed as well. And that's another cool thing, by the way. I sync my VS Code settings with my GitHub account. That means whenever my GitHub account is logged in, it effectively sets up my environment how I like it, just by default. So it's quite nice. So that's how a number of those extensions have been configured. But did you know that, say you wanted to go and install something like, I don't know, what have we got in here? The GitHub Actions extension, for example. Say you wanted any user who spins up the code space for that repository to have that extension installed, you can right-click that extension, and then you can click Add to Dev Container JSON file. And then what you'll see, there we go, we've noticed a change in the dev container. Do we want to rebuild? So we could do that. I've already got the extension installed, so I'm not going to. But you can see that in our diff, it has added the extension to that dev container JSON file as well. So this is how you can start crafting this environment to be how you want it for whichever user begins contributing to that repository. So yeah, this is why I'm just such a big fan of code spaces. So let's do this. Let's go and type go build. There we go. It's downloading the dependencies that we've got. And give it a moment. And hello, VedDev, welcome. Thanks for joining again. Good to see you here again. Venus Gold, TIL, things I learned. Good. Good. Right, so that looks like it worked. The moment of truth is we go and run gh-game. There we go. So you can see how quickly we went from having the repository with no dev container, no environment setup, to installing Go, having that as that kind of base image that we're using, having the GitHub CLI installed as a feature, so we don't even need to think about installing that. And then we just built that CLI extension here and ran it within probably less than 5 minutes or so, I guess. So again, we've now got to do our obligatory, let's run the coin toss. Let's see how lucky we are. Because I feel we've been luckier with the coding than we have been with the coin toss in this one. So what did we go for last time? Heads, I think. So let's try tails. Really not my game today, is it? The coin shows heads. Final streak 0. So we are not doing well today, folks, with the coin toss. But you know what? That's okay. I will take that. Clearly a sign that we need to go and move on. Good. So now we're in the code space. We could go and open up the code space locally as well if we wanted. So we can go and hit that green button at the bottom. We can open it up in VS Code Desktop, in VS Code Insiders. I'll open up in Desktop. Why not? There we go. I'll go and open that. I think about this as a little bit like a thin client. If anyone's kind of come from like that desktop and virtualization world, my VS Code locally is now connecting to the code space on GitHub. So it's a bit like a thin client that VS Code is running on my machine, but then the underlying image, the extensions, those things, the frameworks that are running are on that container or on that thing running in the code space then. So let's go and create a GitHub action workflow, I think, next. I've got a customized PS prompt, so it shows I care about the code I write. Thanks for that, Jerry. Honestly, my main thing is I just need a prompt of knowing where I am in my terminal because I will get lost otherwise. So I wish it was something like that, but I just get lost very easily. That is my But I'll take your compliment. I'll say that it's because I care deeply about the code. All right, that's what we'll have it as. Oh man, funny. Good. So let's go and bring up the terminal. And good. So then. What should we do? We want to go and create a GitHub action workflow. So let's go first and bring the terminal down. And do you know what I'm going to do? First, I just want to show you, again, we talked about it a few weeks ago, but this is an existing GitHub action workflow that we have. This is something that gets initialized when you create a GitHub CLI extension. So this is one published by the GitHub CLI team, and it helps you kind of pre-compile and release the binaries that you would need for running your extension in the GitHub CLI and publishing that. But what we want to do is right now we have no real checks or balances of whether the code builds, whether the code passes tests, or anything like that. So I think let's start and let's work incrementally. Let's go and just check that the code actually compiles first, that it builds. So I'm going to use my trusty friends and my helpful assistant, Copilot, for this one. So you might actually spot there's a new model here in the bottom right, Gemini 2.0 Flash. So let me just jump across to the GitHub blog, and specifically the changelog, because you might not have seen that yesterday we announced, it was yesterday, wasn't it? It's the 6th today. Yes, yesterday. Gemini 2.0 Flash is now available to all Copilot users in public preview. So whether you are on Copilot Free or Copilot Pro, Copilot Business or Copilot Enterprise, Copilot Business or Copilot Enterprise, your admin might need to grant access to Gemini 2.0 Flash, but you should be able to go and try that now. So something to be aware of, folks. So let's see how it does. Create a GitHub Actions workflow file, which triggers on a pull request targeting main. it should run go build. And I don't want to use the /new. There we go. Okay, that was very quick as well. Nice. Okay, so here's the GitHub Action workflow file. So go build on a pull request to main, Ubuntu latest. Okay, setup go, version 1.21. So there's things that we can go and just tweak there. So I'm going to call this ci.yaml. And we'll go and bring that across. And let's see, what else should we do? I think pull request is fine for now. I think that the action/checkout might have updated. So this is why I like the GitHub Actions extension, by the way. So let me show you a few things. Number one is when I'm editing my GitHub action, yes, I have Copilot helping me there saying, right, do we want to add push, for example? Maybe we do. And I could probably change that to be spaces 2, I think, to match with the rest. Oops. There we go. I think something's going a bit strange from my tabbing. But never mind. What I can do, though, is I can just go and use Control and space. And it will bring up effectively that schema for the GitHub Actions workflow file. So I could go and indent, and I can go and do Control space. I can get those other triggers there, for example. If I go below the jobs property, I get this Control space here as well, which that one doesn't look like it. Oh, because that's the name of the job. If I go below that one, you can see here, we've got these kind of properties that we can then go and use. So this is something, that we can go and use property-wise there and just help us along a little bit. And I just saw a question about O3 Mini as well. So there are several models available, so O3 Mini being one of them, O1, 4.0, 2.0 Flash, 3.5 Sonnet as well. So there's a few different models available there. So let me do this. So because I've got the GitHub Actions extension installed, we can mouse over that action and we can go and open it up in GitHub. So I can see, yep, the latest release is v4. So we're just going to go and navigate back to that one. And if we go and look at setup go as well, it's version 5. Let's just go and update that. And then I know the latest Go version is 1.2.3. So that looks like a kind of base GitHub Actions workflow file. So we're checking out the code. We're setting up Go on that runner, on that machine. And then we are going to go and build the code then as well. So that looks good. So let me go and stage that file. And Frank, this one's for you again. This sparkle button, if we hit the generate commit message, add CI workflow for go build on pull request. But you know what? Before we do that, let's go and create a new branch. Let's go and say, what should we say? Add CI workflow. Oh, there we go. Good. So that looks good to me. Oh, no, it doesn't. Sorry, that was I staged the wrong file. There we go. Let's commit that. And we'll push that up. And then we can create the pull request. And here you go. So this is, again, why I love this GitHub pull request extension, is you have the same sparkle icon here as well. So you can go and generate title, pull request message, create that. And there we go. If I go and jump across to the pull request, we can now see the GitHub action running, and let's see. Will it build first time is going to be the question. Looks like it's pulling a number of packages down, so it looks like something is working for us there. There we go. We had the working build. So I'm not sure it's so often we can say that our CI works first time. Mine definitely don't. I normally have to kind of iterate through that. But you can see that there we go. We've got that build working there, that kind of workflow. So now what we could do is we could start iterating on that a little bit if we liked. We could go and start running some tests maybe as well. Now, right now, we don't have any tests actually in the project. So if I just go and run go test v, and what this command is doing is effectively saying, right, from the folder that we're in, which is gh-game, can you look recursively and test any packages below? So go test-v, let's go and take a look. There we go, no test files. So let's go and start doing maybe a bit of refactoring, I think. So let's go and jump across the coin toss. I think there's a few things that we can do here. Number one is I think we can go and split out some of the functionality into an internal folder. So one of the conventions with Go is you have like an internal folder, or specifically for command line Go-based apps anyway. You have the CMD folder, which is a bit like that presentation layer. So what are the commands that I can run in the command line? And then the packages, the functions that you can run, are then typically either in the internal folder, if it's something that you don't want to expose to as an API, like as part of a library, or if it is something that you want to expose, like as a library, you typically put in the PKG folder then as well. So that's, I think that's what we should do, is we should start refactoring some of those functions. So let's go and see how we get on. We could go and do that manually, but I'm just curious how we go with Copilot edits. I'm going to switch to O3 Mini because I saw it mentioned in the chat a moment ago. So let's go and try that out. So let's try something like, please can you refactor the coin toss code? The functions should be in the internal folder. Let's go a little bit more. Internal coin toss folder, whereas the actual command itself should only be the only thing in the CMD package. Let's try that. I'm also going to just start scaffolding out some of the folders here as well. So internal coin toss. There we go. Okay. So yeah, so I need to go and adjust my import paths because I haven't set all of that up properly yet. But what I like about Copilot edits is how it presents it as a diff, so I can start seeing what's kind of changed in that. Now we can see in toss.go, we have got the methods there that were in the other file. So of course I could have just kind of copy and pasted and whatnot, but it's just a little interesting exercise to see how it did here. So let me go and accept those and save those. And was there any particular reason that I used O3 Mini? I saw in the chat there. Just because someone mentioned it a few moments ago. Yeah, I'm still kind of trying out O3 Mini. I'm still trying out a few of these models and getting a sense of which one works best for my different scenarios. So no specific reason for that one in particular. So let's go to go.mods, and you can see here, this is the module name. So that is what I need to use in terms of my import over here. So go and update that. Looks better. Good. And now it looks like that is all working as expected. Nice. So, of course, the way we check, still builds, that's good. th-game. Good, that's all still working. Wonderful. So then, what we can do next is we can start writing some tests. And again, there's a couple of ways we can do this. I'm gonna jump across over to, I'm just gonna rename that to cointoss.go as well, just for consistency's sake. There we go. And I'm going to, there's a couple of things we can do. We could select the code and then do something like a slash command here. And you see we've got this slash tests slash command. That's one way that we could go and do it. Another way is in Copilot chats. We could go and do that as well. The slash test command here as well, or setup tests as well. Or we could go and ask in natural language. So I think I'm gonna go and ask in natural language. Actually, no, let's use the slash command. And again, let's try Gemini 2.0 flash test. So think about these slash commands as little handy shortcuts that you can go and use. Okay, so that's more of the plan. So that's not what we want to do. Let me try again. Slash test. O3 Mini. That one. Use slash test. There we go. Okay. Okay, so that looks like it's generated something there. So let's go and have a look through and review that code. So package coin toss, it's importing a few different pieces there. So bytes, IO, OS strings testing, validate guess. So valid guesses are the heads. Okay, so it's enumerating over the different kind of casing that we could go and use. If there's any errors, return the error. Okay. And then it did not return an error. Cool. Do 100 coin tosses. If the result is not heads or tails, then it returned an unexpected value. Okay. Does toss coin? Yeah, it does just return heads and tails. Cool. Simulate an input. So what are we doing there? Not sure why we've got that in there. Input string. Don't think that's necessarily needed. It's not really testing anything in particular, unless it's used down here. It's a helper method. Okay, so I would have probably put that somewhere outside of the tests. Maybe that's kind of my personal preference. So simulate input. Okay. Next get next guess quit. If we simulate and quit. Expected continuation false when quitting got true. Yeah, because what we do when we're checking to quit is we return a false, so that makes sense. If guess is not equal to empty, expected empty guess when quitting, fine. And then we're testing the next guess is valid. Yeah. I'll simulate heads. I would probably try both, maybe, but there we go. Invalid, then valid. Okay. I mean, first pass seems reasonable. Let me go and put that as coin toss underscore test.go. And let's go and run that. We got failure, cannot use. Yeah, that whole simulating thing is what it's. Either type assertion. Okay. Let me see. How much are we using that? Because me, it just. I don't know. I'm going to remove those for now because it just feels like it's not quite a direction I want to go in yet. In terms of, going and starting with solving the most problems and then kind of incrementing. So using that principle we mentioned earlier. So we've got test validate guess, we've got test toss coin as well. So where haven't we done? So we test toss coin. We do 100 times, check if it's heads or tails. That should be full coverage. Validate guess. We're testing a few different options. So again, we'd test to lower the trim space. And then we test the error path as well. So that's good. So get next guess. Okay. Okay, so I mean, maybe we would need some kind of line in then, just thinking through it. But the reason why I'm just hesitating on that one is I'm actually going to re-implement this. I was thinking about this last week. Yes, classic case of if test fails, remove offending test. Not quite. We will be bringing that test back in. The reason why, though, is I'm actually going to be reframing how we do that particular input. So right now, the user has to type in heads or tails. But one of the things that you can do with the Go-BH package is make it selections instead. So kind of make the user choose between predefined options rather than typing in heads or tails. And it just feels like it's a bit of a nicer path, personally. And that's, funny enough, something I was going to touch on today, actually, as well. So how are we doing? Maybe we've got a few minutes. We might be able to start looking at that. So let's go and, oops, didn't mean to do that. There we go. Let's go for now, I think, and just connect that. Oops, what did I do? Didn't do enough dots. There we go. So let me do this. Let me go and do one more thing on the GitHub Action workflow. We're going to run the tests as well. Go, good. We don't need that. Nice. And then let's go and add the CI, coin toss, all of the updated bits there. And again, it's just how nice having that sparkle there to generate a meaningful commit message is just lovely. So commit and push. Good. So let's jump across to that. And we can see that's running for us. But while that's happening, what I want to also go and do is I want to just show you something that I was thinking about here. So where did I move that logic to now? I guess it's in here, get next guess. Okay. I was thinking that when I was prompting Copilot last week, I was trying to get it to go down this path of being able to select the options rather than have the user typing it in. And this is where I want to talk about context and why it's really important, because I think I kind of led Copilot actually down the wrong path, so it was my fault. So let me do this. Let me, I don't know if I can easily kind of replay that from before, but effectively what I was asking last time was something along the lines of I wanted to use the CMD package. So, oh, was it CMD? Oh, thinking out loud here. Cobra. I was prompting it in terms of the Cobra package. And actually, there's a wonderful comment in the chat here. Coin toss optional third option is sideways. Um, Improbable, not impossible. So that could be a fun little extension we could go and add. Sideways. I wonder how often that actually happens, because when you think statistically, it's always 50-50 for heads tails, right? So why is no one modeled sideways? Huh. I digress. So Cobra is one of these packages that we've used to kind of bring these commands. And my misunderstanding was I thought the functionality I've seen in other CLI packages came from Cobra. It actually comes from the go-gh package. So when I was prompting Copilot, I was saying, oh, you need to go and use the Cobra package to go and do this. And it didn't quite go the way I wanted it to because of my misunderstanding. So I'm just curious now, if I go and reprompt it with something like, rather than have the user type heads or tails, they must be able to select from a predefined set of options or tails. Maybe we'll add sideways later. So heads or tails, there should be a capability to do selections using the go-gh. Let's see how that goes. I'm going to drag and drop that context across. I'll see how we get on. We're not going to use the /new intent. Okay, so package coin toss, prompt, good. I think it was prompter, or was it prompt? I can't quite remember. Interesting. So that might have got it. Let me go and apply that. So this button, apply in editor, I love using, because rather than me thinking of copy and pasting the whole file or trying to look at what's changed, it just intelligently goes and applies the code in the editor. So kind of looks where the changes are and then applies it to that specific section. So I really like using that button. Okay, so there's going to be two changes. So it's this one up here and this one down here. And yeah, I think it was actually prompt P. Oh, I know what it is. B2. No, I always get this wrong. B2. You know what? I'm going to go and look at that. Of course. One moment. Oop. Go to the source. So package. Prompter. Prompter is what we were looking for. So was V2 there? No. V2 there. Oh, what did I do? Aren't you familiar with the prompter package in curl-gh? I mean, you can't blame it. it is familiar with it, apparently. I didn't ask it anything else. I should have asked a more useful question. And this is my point about why context is so important, because all I asked it was, are you familiar with it? And it answered, yep, I'm familiar. Um, so how do I reference the prompter package in go-gh in my Go code, please? Um, oh, like that? No. Oh, because I didn't import it yet, did I? Something like that. Yep. User error. Oh, but does not contain package. Let me see. Let me see. Always the simple things. Yeah, V2. There's the V2. Right. So let me go and do that. Mod tidy. There we go. Right. Now we are cooking. So what is going on here then? Let's have a look. Answer prompt dot. Ah, yes, we need to create a new instance of prompter. I remember this. Ah, and in fact, it's got it right here for us. There we go. So p prompt dot new. Let's see, what are we doing? Answer p dot prompt. What have I done here? Not enough arguments. We need that. Fine. Because, of course, we need to pass in the inputs there. So that makes a lot of sense. Good. And then we will get rid of answer lower. Oh, I see. I see what it's doing. Ah, interesting. Okay. So cannot use options as bool value in argument. That's what we want, I guess. Let's see. Sideways can be just a tie as if coin roll and not fall to tail or heads. I love how we're going in depth and discussing the kind of statistics of that now. That makes me smile. Interesting. I am not familiar with prompt enough. So answer p dot select. Okay. There we go. Okay, so what's your next guess? What's your next guess? Heads, tails, or quit? And then we want the default to be heads. Why not? And then the options to be that. There we go. Now we're looking good. And then because it gets returned as an int, so we just want to have something like options answer, I guess. Okay, that seems reasonable, I think. Let's try it. Go build. And then GH game good Quintas. And the first time we'll do that. 3 times in a row we have got a 0 streak. It is not going well today. Right, there we go. We finally got one right. We've finally got one right. So what's the next guess? Heads, tails, or quits? I'm going to go with tails. Let's try again. Heads, Wow, I am really, really unlucky today. I think the first time we ever did this, I got like five or six in a row. And clearly that was like a massive fluke because today that is just not playing ball whatsoever. But anyway, I'm mindful that we're about kind of 10 minutes over the hour that we were planning to stream here. So let me do this. Let me omit these changes. Yep, that looks good. Add the actions extension to the dev container as well. Then, of course, we can just doubly confirm that we haven't broken the build, which is always a good way to end things. So that's where I was trying to get to, was refactoring that input. So rather than user typing, they have to select from those different options then. So heads, tails, or and it's just a bit nicer in terms of accessibility and all those things as well. That's no roulette for me tonight. Yes, no. My luck has definitely ran out for the day, so I know when to quit for sure. So there we go. The build still works, which is good. So I think next time what we can do is a couple of things. We can talk about what this other pull request is. So go back to the Dependabot conversation from earlier. We can maybe finish off writing some of the tests that we've got for the coin toss. And then from there, we can maybe start building some other games. So doing things like rolling some dice, for example, and whatever other games people are thinking of as well. So if you're interested, either raise an issue or drop in the chat what you'd like to see in this little fun CLI extension that we're making. But what we covered today, if we just look back, is we talked about dev containers in Visual Studio Code and how you can go and use the command palette when you have the code spaces extension installed to go and add a dev container configuration file. That is how we created this dev container configuration file. And that allowed us to very quickly spin up this code space where we have all the dependencies we need, so that anyone on this stream could go and fork the repo and could go and start developing really quickly. So being able to run Go build, being able to run that CLI extension locally there as well. Then what we did is we created a GitHub action workflow for our continuous integration with the help of Copilot. And I think we used one of our new models there as well. So we've been switching between Gemini 2.0 Flash, 03 Mini today. And then we got that all written up there. So we've got our actions all set up. We've got a build, we've got a test. And then we refactored the coin toss functionality. So some of it is in the internal folder, so it's more like the internal logic. We've almost got that presentation layer then in the CMD folder. And then we started writing some tests as well. So we've been busy, we've been productive. That hour went by super, super, super quickly. So again, folks, thank you for joining. Hopefully this is useful. It's the very relaxed and kind of casual feeling that we want with these streams, that we're just kind of learning together, showing some things, building some things, and how we're using some of the tools and whatnot. So if there's something you want to see in this stream next week, let me know, because that's exactly what we did today. Last week, we were talking about actions and code spaces a little bit, and I said, hey, why don't we do that next week? And here we are. That is what we did. So please do let me know in the chat. Is there something you want to dig into a bit deeper? Like we talked about Dependabot, for example. Maybe we can look into that a bit more next week. Maybe we can do a bit more with Copilot next week, for example. And as we're starting to write some of these additional kind of sub games and sub commands, maybe we go and publish the CLI extension next week. Let me know what you would like to do, because then we can factor that in. So please do comment in the chat. Otherwise, we are not done for the day. So we are done with this stream, but you can join us again at 2 p.m. Eastern, a little bit later today, with my colleague Cassidy. And Cassidy will be building something completely different. Last week, she was showing a project where she was, I think, using, if I remember, FFmpeg to go and try and invert colors or try and do something with video recordings and different things. So it was a very, very different stream to what we're doing here. So please do join Cassidy. Cassidy's awesome. And, I think some interesting kind of problems being worked on there. But yeah, let us know what you'd love to cover, and we can make sure we can include it as part of the streams. So thank you again, folks, for joining. Thank you for being so active in the chat. I've done my best to try and call out some of the things that I've seen coming along in here, but it's been very, very active. So thank you for that. And otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day, and either see you on tonight's stream, Open Source Fridays, I saw mentioned in the chat, or we'll see you next week. So thank you, folks, for joining, and bye for now.